The world during the Ice Age was a place of extremes. Vast glaciers stretched across continents, winds howled with bone-chilling force, and snow blanketed the landscape for months on end. For early humans, each day was a test of endurance, a delicate balancing act between life and death. Unlike modern humans, who enjoy insulated homes, central heating, and weatherproof clothing, our ancestors faced a relentless environment where even a single night could spell disaster. Every frostbitten finger, every shiver of cold, was a reminder that survival was not guaranteed. The harshness of these winters shaped not only the physical evolution of humans, but also their ingenuity, resourcefulness, and social behavior. Survival in such extreme conditions required more than instinct. It demanded innovation. Early humans quickly realized that they could not rely solely on their bodies to keep warm. Layers of natural materials, strategic use of shelters, and the discovery of fire became critical allies in the struggle against freezing temperatures. In this frozen world, a single misstep could be fatal. Imagine a night where the temperature dropped far below zero, and the wind sliced through a thin layer of leaves or grass. Without proper insulation, hypothermia could set in within hours. It was in these moments of vulnerability that human creativity truly emerged. The contrast between danger and warmth was stark. Outside, the landscape was unforgiving. Jagged ice, snow-laden forests, and predators prowling in search of food. Inside a cave or under a makeshift shelter, however, warmth offered not just physical comfort, but also psychological relief. Early humans understood this intuitively. The need for a safe, insulated space became a central concern, shaping decisions about where to settle, how to build, and which materials to use. Archaeological evidence shows that caves were more than just temporary refuge. They were carefully chosen homes where fire pits were positioned to maximize heat, and bedding areas were layered with plant material or moss. The act of creating a warm sleeping area was, in effect, a matter of survival. Beyond shelter, the challenge of insulation extended to clothing and body coverage. Before animal furs became widely used, early humans experimented with a variety of materials: mosses, reeds, bark, feathers, and even layers of leaves. Each material offered different properties. Some retained heat, others provided wind protection, and some were surprisingly effective at keeping moisture out. Trial and error was essential. A single night without adequate protection could teach lessons more vividly than months of safe experimentation. It is likely that early humans shared these lessons within their groups, passing knowledge about effective insulation techniques from one generation to the next. In essence, the harsh Ice Age climate acted as a powerful teacher, compelling humans to innovate quickly or perish. The story of survival is also the story of human cooperation, huddling together for warmth, sharing scarce resources, and working collectively to maintain fires and shelters were crucial strategies. The social dimension of insulation cannot be underestimated. A lone individual exposed to the freezing cold faced a grim fate, while a group working together could thrive even in the harshest conditions. Anthropologists suggest that the social aspect of winter survival may have contributed to the development of early human communities, fostering communication, shared responsibilities, and mutual protection. Warmth was as much about physical closeness as it was about material ingenuity. Fear and uncertainty were constant companions. Nights were particularly treacherous, filled with the howls of predators and the threat of sudden storms. Yet within these dangers, there were moments of ingenuity and triumph. The discovery of fire and the clever use of natural insulation materials provided hope and a sense of control in an otherwise chaotic world. Each successful adaptation reinforced the human capacity to manipulate the environment to their advantage, turning a hostile landscape into a place where life could continue. The struggle against cold was not only a test of physical endurance, but also a crucible for the development of intelligence, problem-solving, and innovation. Ultimately, the opening chapter of human winter survival is a story of contrasts. The brutality of the Ice Age confronted humans with life-or-death stakes at every turn, yet was also the catalyst for some of the most remarkable innovations in human history. From the first use of moss and grasses as insulation to the discovery of fire and the careful selection of sheltered sites, these early humans demonstrated an unparalleled ability to adapt. Their efforts laid the foundation for future generations, showing that survival in the cold was not just about enduring. It was about understanding, experimenting, and ultimately thriving in one of nature's most challenging environments. Surviving the Ice Age was not only a test of ingenuity, it was a test of the human body itself. Unlike today, where clothing, central heating, and insulation protect us from extreme cold, early humans had to rely on their own physical adaptations. And those adaptations were far from perfect. The human body evolved primarily in warmer climates. So when confronted with subzero temperatures, it faced a constant battle to maintain core warmth. Hypothermia, frostbite, and energy depletion were ever-present threats. Every exposure to skin was vulnerable, and even small mistakes in clothing, shelter, or activity could prove fatal. The human body, while resilient, was never designed to endure weeks or months of icy nights without proper protection. The physiological effects of cold were severe and immediate. When temperatures dropped, the body prioritized keeping vital organs warm, often at the expense of extremities. Fingers, toes, noses, and ears were the first to suffer, risking frostbite that could permanently damage tissue. Muscles and joints stiffened, reducing mobility and increasing vulnerability to accidents or attacks. The body's energy reserves were rapidly consumed as it attempted to generate heat, meaning that food and fat stores became vital. Even a simple night of sleep without insulation could trigger a dangerous drop in body temperature, making every survival strategy, from shelter building to clothing selection, an urgent matter of life and death. Interestingly, early humans' bodies did show remarkable adaptability over generations. Populations living in colder regions developed denser body hair and slightly higher fat retention, while metabolic processes adjusted to extract maximum energy from available food. Yet, these adaptations were not enough to survive harsh winters alone. Physical resilience needed to be paired with intelligence and creativity. Anthropologists point out that this dual necessity, body and brain working in tandem, was a driving force behind many early innovations. The human mind had to anticipate danger, improvise solutions, and coordinate group efforts, all while the body endured constant stress. The contrast between vulnerability and ingenuity is evident when examining early survival strategies. For instance, humans could use heat generated by fire, body layering, and insulated shelters to compensate for physical limitations. Simple acts like huddling together for warmth or resting on layered bedding of leaves and moss dramatically reduce the risk of hypothermia. Even minor improvements in insulation, adding a few extra layers of plant material, choosing a shelter location, or timing activities to coincide with the sun's warmth, could mean the difference between life and death. Every choice was magnified by the environment's hostility, and failure was unforgiving. Energy conservation was equally critical. The cold forced early humans to adjust their daily routines to minimize exposure and maximize heat retention. Hunting and gathering had to be carefully timed, ensuring that energy expenditure did not exceed caloric intake. Rest periods, sleep locations, and even social behaviors were influenced by the need to maintain warmth. The body's reliance on food as internal insulation became apparent. Fat-rich diets were crucial not only for survival, but also for sustaining metabolic heat. In essence, the human body's vulnerability shaped cultural practices and survival strategies, linking physiology directly with innovation. Cold also had profound psychological effects. The constant threat of freezing nights and the pressure to find or maintain warmth created stress that tested mental resilience. Fear was not abstract. It was immediate and tangible. Early humans had to remain alert, plan for contingencies, and rely on memory and experience to avoid deadly mistakes. The icy silence of winter landscapes, punctuated by the distant sounds of predators, would have amplified this sense of vulnerability. Yet alongside fear came ingenuity. Humans learned to manipulate their environment, turning rocks, ice, and vegetation into tools for survival. They discovered that even small adjustments, blocking wind drafts, layering insulating materials, or sharing body heat, could provide psychological comfort as much as physical protection. Archaeological evidence offers fascinating insights into these adaptations. Sites across Europe and Asia show how early humans constructed shelters, positioned bedding, and organized group spaces to preserve warmth. Remains of hearths, layered bedding, and carefully chosen cave recesses indicate a sophisticated understanding of microclimates and heat retention. These early engineers were not building for comfort alone. They were constructing life-sustaining environments. Each innovation reflected a deep awareness of the human body's limits and the unforgiving nature of winter. The battle between human vulnerability and environmental harshness also highlights a broader theme. Survival in extreme conditions was rarely an individual achievement. Groups had to cooperate, sharing resources, knowledge, and physical warmth. An individual exposed to the cold alone had little chance of surviving the long winter nights. But a cohesive group could distribute tasks, fire tending, shelter construction, food gathering, in ways that maximized each person's survival odds. Warmth became a collective effort, intertwining the physiological needs of the body with the social instincts of the species. Ultimately, this section underscores a critical point. The human body, while remarkable, was only one piece of the survival puzzle. Its limitations forced early humans to innovate, adapt, and cooperate in ways that defined their species. The Ice Age was a crucible that revealed both our fragility and our ingenuity. By understanding the physical challenges early humans faced, we gain a deeper appreciation for their ingenuity in insulation, shelter, and social behavior. The body's struggle against the cold set the stage for everything that followed. Every layer of insulation, every fire pit, every communal huddle was a direct response to these fundamental vulnerabilities. In facing the icy brutality of the environment, early humans not only endured, they learned, adapted, and laid the foundation for survival strategies that would echo across millennia. Long before animal furs became the standard for winter survival, early humans had to rely on the resources immediately available in their environment. Their first experiments in clothing and insulation were often simple, improvised, and born from necessity. Plant fibers, moss, grasses, and even bark became early tools against the cold. These materials were carefully gathered, prepared, and layered to provide warmth and protection. Each material presented its own challenges. Some were scratchy or brittle, others absorbed moisture, but necessity drove innovation, and humans learned to manipulate nature in ways that ensured survival. Early clothing was rarely a single garment. Instead, humans layered materials in ways that maximized insulation while maintaining mobility. Moss and leaves, for example, could be stuffed between woven plant fibers to create rudimentary padding. Grasses were tied into bundles and wrapped around limbs, creating an additional barrier against wind and frost. Bark, despite its rigidity, could be softened by soaking or pounding and fashioned into capes or skirts that offer protection from the biting cold. These early attempts at insulation required patience, experimentation, and careful observation of materials' properties. It was a hands-on education, with failure often resulting in discomfort or even life-threatening exposure. The process of gathering these materials was itself a strategic endeavor. Moss was typically collected from shaded, moist areas where it was thickest, while grasses were harvested from sheltered meadows that could be reached without overexposure to the elements. Early humans needed to understand not only what materials were effective, but also when and where to gather them. Mistiming collection or choosing inferior materials could render a garment useless. Anthropologists believe these early excursions were opportunities for learning and teaching, as knowledge about insulation techniques was shared among group members. In this way, early clothing represented both practical survival and the beginnings of cultural knowledge transfer. Woven plant fibers were particularly significant. Using simple tools or even their hands, early humans learned to twist, braid, and knot fibers into mats or garments that could be layered for warmth. These techniques were primitive forms of textile creation, laying the groundwork for more sophisticated clothing in the future. By twisting fibers into cords or ropes, early humans could fasten layers together, ensuring that they stayed close to the body and trapped heat effectively. Moss or leaves could then be inserted between layers, creating what was, in essence, a natural thermal blanket. The ingenuity of this approach cannot be overstated. Humans were essentially engineering portable insulation from scratch. Contrast played a critical role in these early clothing strategies. On one hand, humans faced the raw, unyielding cold of their environment, icy winds, snow-laden landscapes, and freezing nights. On the other hand, they had the ability to manipulate natural materials, turning seemingly fragile plant matter into effective barriers against the elements. This tension between vulnerability and resourcefulness was a defining characteristic of early survival. The cold was relentless. Yet human creativity was equally persistent. Each successful garment or layer of insulation represented a small victory in an ongoing battle for survival. Functionality often guided design more than aesthetics. A bundle of moss wrapped around a torso or a thick layer of grasses tied over legs was not meant to be beautiful. It was meant to save lives. Archaeological evidence, including impressions of plant fibers and traces of organic material on early tools, suggests that these early humans were meticulous in their preparation. They learned which plants retained heat, which would be woven without breaking, and which materials resisted moisture. These lessons were likely passed down orally or through demonstration, forming an early body of practical knowledge that combined environmental awareness with survival strategy. The cognitive aspect of early clothing cannot be overlooked. Each garment required planning, selecting the right materials, determining the layering order, and assessing the durability of the result. Humans were engaging in problem-solving long before the concept of engineering existed. They had to anticipate challenges, such as sudden temperature drops, wet conditions, or high winds, and adjust their designs accordingly. The success of these early garments depended on observation, experimentation, and adaptation, a reflection of the human mind's capacity to innovate in response to environmental pressures. Early humans also began to recognize the benefits of mobility and flexibility in clothing. Heavy or cumbersome layers could protect against the cold, but limited movement and increased fatigue. This led to creative compromises, such as wrapping insulation around key areas like the torso, chest, and extremities, while leaving joints more flexible. The balance between warmth and agility became a central concern, as effective insulation was useless if it restricted the wearer's ability to hunt, gather, or escape predators. These considerations reveal an early understanding of ergonomics and functional design, highlighting the sophistication of seemingly simple survival techniques. The social dimension of early clothing was equally important, sharing knowledge about effective insulation, demonstrating layering techniques, and assisting one another in garment preparation strengthened group cohesion. Survival in harsh climates was rarely an individual endeavor. It relied on the collective intelligence and cooperation of the group. Those who mastered the use of plant-based insulation were invaluable members of their community, passing down essential skills that ensured the survival of the entire group. Clothing, in this sense, was not merely a personal tool. It was a symbol of cooperation, learning, and cultural adaptation. Finally, the use of plant-based insulation illustrates the profound ingenuity of early humans. Faced with extreme cold and limited resources, they transformed simple elements of their environment into life-sustaining technology. Every leaf, fiber, or moss patch represented a deliberate choice and a calculated risk, balancing material properties with the pressing demands of survival. While animal furs would later become a primary source of warmth, these early innovations laid the groundwork for future advances, demonstrating that human intelligence and creativity were as vital to survival as physical endurance. The story of plant-based clothing is a testament to the human capacity to adapt, innovate, and triumph over one of nature's harshest challenges. Long before humans mastered clothing or fire, the environment itself offered the first line of defense against the relentless cold: natural shelters. Caves, rock overhangs, and crevices were more than just convenient resting spots. They were life-saving refuges that provided protection from wind, snow, and predators. The contrast between the raw, freezing outdoors and the relative warmth of these natural formations was stark. A cave could transform a night of potential death into a night of survival, making the choice of shelter one of the most critical decisions in the Ice Age. Caves were often selected with remarkable precision. Early humans observed wind patterns, seasonal sun exposure, and the proximity to food and water sources. Archaeological evidence shows that caves with narrow entrances were preferred because they trapped heat more effectively and reduced wind penetration. Elevated sleeping areas or natural depressions within the cave allowed humans to stay above the coldest air near the ground, while depressions in rock often served as makeshift beds layered with moss, leaves, and grasses. Every detail of cave selection and use was guided by experience and observation, reflecting an early understanding of microclimates and thermal efficiency. The psychological benefits of shelter were as important as the physical ones. Being enclosed within solid rock offered a sense of security against predators and the elements. Outside, wolves, large cats, and other Ice Age predators roamed freely, adding an ever-present sense of danger to the bitter cold. Inside a cave, early humans could breathe easier, tend fires safely, and sleep without the constant threat of attack. This contrast between the perilous outdoors and the relative sanctuary of a cave underscores the profound impact of shelter on human survival, not just physically but emotionally. Natural shelters were not uniform, and early humans adapted to the specific challenges of each type. Overhangs offered partial protection but were often exposed to wind and rain, requiring additional insulation like layered plant material or rocks to create walls. Crevices provided concealment and concentrated warmth, but could be cramped and uncomfortable. The ingenuity of early humans shone through in how they manipulated these spaces, stacking stones to block drafts, arranging plant layers for bedding, and positioning fires to maximize heat without producing smoke hazards. These early engineers were learning, through trial and error, how to turn natural formations into functional, insulated habitats. Fire played a complementary role in natural shelters. Hearths strategically placed within caves or under overhangs provided heat that radiated through the enclosed space, enhancing the insulating properties of the rock itself. Smoke helped deter insects and predators, while also creating a semi-controlled atmosphere where warmth could be concentrated. Anthropological studies suggest that early humans carefully managed these fires, balancing the need for heat with the dangers of smoke inhalation and fire spread. The integration of natural shelter and fire demonstrates a sophisticated understanding of environmental management long before modern architecture or heating systems existed. Layering was another key strategy within shelters. Bedding made from leaves, grasses, moss, and later animal hides created insulating barriers between humans and cold rock surfaces. This not only retained body heat, but also minimized moisture exposure, a critical factor in preventing hypothermia. Archaeologists have discovered remnants of layered bedding in numerous sites across Europe and Asia, indicating that early humans repeatedly refined these techniques. Even the simplest combination of moss and leaves could significantly improve survival odds during freezing nights, showing that careful preparation and knowledge of materials were central to winter life. The placement of communal areas within shelters also reflected early social strategies. Sleeping arrangements often maximized shared warmth, with group members huddling together in central spaces while peripheral areas were used for storage or smaller fires. Such organization optimized heat retention and safety, highlighting how shelter design intertwined with social behavior. The contrast between exposed individuals and cooperative groups again emerges. Those who shared space and resources survived at far higher rates than solitary dwellers. Shelter, therefore, was not only a physical tool, but also a medium for fostering community cohesion and mutual protection. Natural shelters also facilitated strategic observation and planning. From the mouth of a cave or atop a rock overhang, early humans could monitor weather patterns, track prey, and anticipate threats. The shelter became a base for life, combining safety, warmth, and strategic advantage. In essence, it was both a shield against the environment and a platform for mastering it. The dual function of shelter, as protection and as a base for proactive survival, is a testament to human ingenuity in the face of extreme conditions. Water and proximity to food sources were also key considerations in shelter selection. A cave near a stream or lake allowed for easy access to water without exposing humans to dangerous cold during long treks. Similarly, proximity to hunting grounds ensured that food could be obtained efficiently, minimizing time spent in freezing conditions. The most successful early humans were those who combined environmental awareness with careful planning, demonstrating a sophisticated understanding of survival logistics that went far beyond simple instinct. Ultimately, natural shelters represent the earliest form of insulation in human history. Before clothing, before fire mastery, and before complex tools, these formations offered a critical advantage against the Ice Age's relentless cold. They were more than passive refuges. They were active partners in survival. The contrast between a frozen, dangerous outside world and the warmth and security of a carefully chosen shelter illustrates a fundamental principle of early human ingenuity. Survival was as much about understanding and manipulating the environment as it was about endurance or physical strength. Through careful selection, layering, and strategic use, natural shelters allowed humans to endure extreme winters, laying a foundation for more advanced insulation strategies that would come later. Fire was perhaps the single most transformative invention in human history, and its role in winter survival cannot be overstated. Before the mastery of animal furs or sophisticated clothing, fire provided warmth, protection, and a sense of control over an otherwise hostile environment. The crackling of flames in a dark cave offered not only physical heat, but also psychological reassurance, creating a safe space where early humans could rest, cook, and plan for survival. Fire became a lifeline, a glowing barrier against the freezing nights, predators, and the uncertainty of the Ice Age. Its discovery marked the difference between mere survival and the beginnings of mastery over the environment. The earliest use of fire likely involved opportunistic flames from natural sources, such as lightning strikes or volcanic activity. Early humans observed and harnessed these fires, learned to keep them alive, and transport embers over distances. This knowledge required careful observation and experimentation. A single extinguished fire could mean a night spent shivering in subzero temperatures or a fatal encounter with predators. Over time, humans developed techniques to start and sustain fire independently, using friction, striking stones, or specialized tools. Each method represented a significant leap in cognitive skill, problem-solving, and understanding of natural phenomena. Fire provided more than warmth. It became central to the organization of early human life. Hearths were carefully placed within caves and shelters to maximize heat distribution while minimizing smoke exposure. Archaeological evidence shows that early humans understood the principles of heat retention, placing stones around fires to radiate warmth and using natural formations to block drafts. The placement of fire pits also reflected social dynamics. Central hearths served as gathering spaces where families or groups could huddle together, cook food, and maintain social bonds. In the harshest environments, fire was both a physical necessity and a tool for maintaining community cohesion. The psychological impact of fire was profound. In a world dominated by cold and darkness, flames offered comfort and security. The dancing light of fire could ward off the fear of unseen predators and the unknown dangers of the night. Early humans were highly attuned to threats, and fire provided a tangible sense of control in an unpredictable world. By creating warmth and light, humans reduced the constant stress imposed by environmental extremes, freeing mental energy to focus on hunting, gathering, planning, and teaching survival skills. In this way, fire was as much a cognitive tool as a physical one, enhancing both survival and innovation. Fire also revolutionized food consumption and nutrition, indirectly supporting insulation and warmth. Cooking food made calories easier to digest and unlocked more energy, which in turn supported metabolic heat production. Protein-rich meats, root vegetables, and other forage foods became more valuable when cooked over a flame. This energy boost was critical in winter months when maintaining body heat required significant caloric intake. The connection between fire, food, and internal insulation highlights the interconnectedness of survival strategies. Mastering fire allowed humans to extract more energy from food, which sustained body heat and reinforced the cycle of survival. Control of fire required continuous effort and vigilance. Early humans had to protect flames from wind, rain, and damp conditions. Transporting embers from one shelter to another demanded skill and careful planning. Fires needed fuel, wood, dried moss, and other combustible materials, which had to be gathered in advance. These tasks created a rhythm to daily life that revolved around sustaining warmth and energy. The effort was considerable, but the payoff was life itself. Each ember that survived the night represented human ingenuity, overcoming the relentless forces of nature. Fire also served as a deterrent against predators, reinforcing its role in winter survival. Wolves, big cats, and other Ice Age predators were naturally wary of flames. By maintaining a fire, humans could keep dangerous animals at a distance while they slept, prepared food, or worked on tools. This added a layer of security that shelters alone could not provide. The combination of fire and shelter created a controlled microenvironment where survival was achievable, even in the harshest climates. It was a clear example of how technology and environment interacted to support human endurance. Interestingly, fire may have influenced social and cultural development as much as survival. Hearths became gathering points where knowledge, stories, and skills were shared. Early humans likely passed down techniques for fire starting, cooking, insulation, and tool-making around the warmth of the flames. These communal moments fostered communication, teaching, and bonding, transforming fire from a purely survival tool into a catalyst for early human culture. The warmth of a fire thus extended beyond the physical realm, nurturing the human mind and social structures alike. The innovation of firemaking is also a story of trial and error. Early humans experimented with different materials, methods, and placement strategies. Some embers failed to ignite. Some fires spread uncontrollably. Mistakes were dangerous, yet they were essential for learning. Each success built upon previous failures, gradually creating a body of knowledge that ensured consistent access to heat. The persistence required to master fire reflects a broader human trait: the drive to adapt, innovate, and overcome environmental challenges through intelligence and resourcefulness. Moreover, fire expanded the possibilities of insulation beyond clothing and bedding. Heat radiating from a hearth could penetrate multiple layers of natural bedding, making simple moss or grass layers far more effective. Rocks heated by fire could retain warmth through the night, creating localized hot spots within shelters. Early humans understood, at least intuitively, that combining fire with other insulation techniques created a synergistic effect, maximizing warmth and survival potential. This integration of multiple strategies, fire, shelter, bedding, and social cooperation, demonstrates the complexity of human adaptation in the Ice Age. Ultimately, fire represents humanity's first true control over the environment. It was a bridge between vulnerability and empowerment, transforming the freezing, dangerous landscapes of the Ice Age into spaces where life could flourish. The mastery of fire was not just about survival. It was about taking the first steps toward civilization itself. Through warmth, protection, energy, and social cohesion, fire became an indispensable tool, illustrating the remarkable capacity of early humans to innovate in the face of relentless adversity. Every spark, every flame, was a testament to human creativity and determination, a symbol of life sustained against one of nature's most formidable challenges. Sleep, in the Ice Age, was never merely a period of rest. It was a critical act of survival. Early humans had to confront freezing temperatures, hard surfaces, and biting winds every night. Without proper bedding and sleeping arrangements, the body rapidly lost heat, energy stores were depleted, and hypothermia became a deadly threat. Unlike today, when mattresses and insulation provide comfort almost automatically, our ancestors relied entirely on their ingenuity and environmental resources. Each layer of bedding, each choice of sleeping location, was a calculated decision aimed at preserving life through the long, bitter nights. Early humans discovered that insulation from the ground was just as important as protection from the air. Cold radiates upward, meaning that sleeping directly on stone or frozen earth could be fatal. To combat this, they created layered beds using plant materials such as leaves, moss, grasses, and later, furs. These layers not only provided warmth, but also offered cushioning and moisture protection. Moss, in particular, was highly valued for its soft texture, water-absorbing properties, and ability to trap air, making an early form of natural insulation. Leaves were often layered thickly and combined with grasses to create more substantial padding. The arrangement of these materials reflects careful observation and experimentation, demonstrating a keen understanding of thermodynamics long before the science of insulation existed. Placement within shelters was another critical factor. Early humans often selected elevated areas within caves or rock shelters for sleeping, taking advantage of the natural rise of warm air. Narrow passages or recesses reduced drafts and concentrated heat from fires, while areas near central hearths provided consistent warmth throughout the night. Sleeping arrangements were strategic, not random. They reflected a sophisticated approach to maximizing both comfort and safety. Archaeological sites revealed depressions lined with plant material in optimal locations, indicating that even in the earliest times, humans were thinking spatially about warmth and protection. Layering techniques extended beyond the ground. Early humans learned to drape plant fibers, moss, or other insulated materials over themselves while sleeping, creating a personal microclimate that retained body heat. Wrapping the body, tucking layers around the neck and limbs, and combining different textures all enhance thermal retention. These methods highlight the intersection of creativity and practicality. They also underscore the trial and error nature of early survival. One night of inadequate layering could lead to frostbite, while a successful combination of materials could make the difference between life and death. Communal sleeping arrangements added another layer of warmth and security. Humans instinctively huddled together, sharing body heat to survive freezing temperatures. The physical closeness of group members, combined with layered bedding, created a synergistic effect that enhanced survival. Anthropologists suggest that these arrangements were not merely practical but also strengthened social bonds, fostering cooperation, communication, and trust. In the relentless cold of the Ice Age, warmth was both physical and social. Those who slept alone were far more vulnerable, highlighting the critical importance of group cohesion in winter survival. The integration of fire and bedding was another crucial innovation. Hearths placed near sleeping areas radiated heat into layered bedding, amplifying the effectiveness of natural insulation materials. Rocks heated by the fire could retain warmth, providing localized hot spots for sleeping or resting. Early humans quickly learned to combine multiple strategies: fire, bedding, shelter orientation, and body layering, to create a controlled environment in which the cold was mitigated as much as possible. This holistic approach demonstrates the sophistication of early survival tactics, blending observation, experimentation, and practical knowledge. Material selection was influenced by more than just warmth. Early humans had to consider moisture, availability, and durability. Leaves and grasses that retained heat when dry could become useless when wet, so careful placement, layering, and maintenance were essential. Moss, which absorbed some moisture without losing its insulating properties, was highly prized. Archaeological evidence shows repeated layering and replacement of bedding materials, suggesting a dynamic process of maintenance and improvement. Sleeping arrangements were therefore not static. They were continuously refined based on experience, weather conditions, and specific challenges of each winter season. Even small innovations made significant differences. Elevating bedding on rocks or creating small barriers with stones would reduce heat loss to the ground. Positioning sleeping spaces near walls or natural windbreaks minimized drafts. Arranging groups in a particular order, larger individuals shielding smaller ones, for example, maximize the retention of body heat. These strategies illustrate the depth of understanding early humans had about their environment and their own physiological needs. Every decision, from material selection to positioning, was a deliberate act aimed at sustaining life in one of Earth's harshest climates. Beyond the practical, bedding and sleeping arrangements had psychological significance. Entering a warm, insulated sleeping area after hours spent in freezing conditions offered a profound sense of relief and security. The predictability and safety of a designated sleeping space helped reduce stress, conserve mental energy, and allow humans to recover for the following day's challenges. The simple act of lying on a carefully constructed bed was an affirmation of human ingenuity, a tangible example of how creativity and observation could transform the hostile natural world into a space of survival and even comfort. Ultimately, bedding and sleeping arrangements were a cornerstone of winter survival. They reflected an intricate understanding of insulation, thermal retention, and social cooperation. Each layer of moss, grass, or leaves was a life-saving adaptation. Each strategic sleeping position a deliberate choice aimed at maximizing warmth and safety. Together with shelter, fire, and body layering, early humans created a system of survival that extended far beyond instinct, showcasing the remarkable interplay of environment, intelligence, and human resilience. Through these innovations, the harsh Ice Age nights became survivable, teaching lessons in resourcefulness, observation, and enduring human drive to adapt and endure. Before animal furs became widely used, early humans had to innovate with the materials immediately available in their environment. Primitive insulation relied on natural elements: moss, reeds, feathers, lichens, grasses, and even bark. These materials were gathered, prepared, and creatively combined to provide warmth and protection against the harsh Ice Age winters. What seems simple to us today required observation, experimentation, and a deep understanding of the natural properties of these resources. Humans had to determine which materials retained heat, repelled moisture, or could be shaped and layered effectively, all while facing freezing temperatures and limited time. Moss was among the most valued insulating materials. Its dense, spongy structure trapped air, creating a natural barrier against cold surfaces. Moss could be layered under bedding, wrapped around the body, or stuffed into gaps within shelters to reduce drafts. Its ability to absorb moisture, without losing insulating properties made it especially useful during damp conditions. Reeds and grasses were also critical, particularly for creating padding or flexible insulation layers. Early humans often bundled these materials and tied them with plant fibers, effectively engineering portable thermal protection that could be moved and adjusted according to need. Feathers added another layer of sophistication. While less abundant than moss or grass, they were highly effective at trapping body heat. Birds' down feathers, soft and lightweight, created air pockets that acted as natural insulation. Archaeologists suggest that early humans collected feathers from nests or hunted birds, then layered them within clothing, bedding, or shelter walls. Even small amounts of feather insulation could make a noticeable difference, illustrating the human ability to exploit subtle properties in the natural world to survive. Lichens and bark played complementary roles. Lichens, often found on trees or rocks, could be dried and layered to create thin yet surprisingly effective insulating sheets. Bark, though rigid, could be softened through soaking, pounding, or layering, forming protective coverings for body or even rudimentary walls for shelters. Each material offered unique advantages and limitations, requiring humans to combine them thoughtfully. Moss provided softness, grasses provided flexibility, feathers retained heat, and bark added structure. Together, they formed a system of insulation that compensated for the absence of animal hides. The collection and preparation of these materials demanded both knowledge and effort. Moss needed to be harvested from areas where it was thickest, dried partially to prevent mold, and layered strategically. Grasses and reeds had to be bundled, sometimes woven, to prevent them from shifting or compressing. Bark needed to be softened and shaped before it could serve as wearable insulation. Early humans likely learned these techniques through observation and trial and error, passing the knowledge down through generations. Success or failure could mean the difference between surviving the night or succumbing to the cold. The ingenuity of early insulation methods also extended to their layering strategies. Humans discovered that combining different materials often produced better results than relying on a single resource. For example, a bedding layer of moss could be topped with grass or feathers, creating multiple thermal barriers that trapped air and retained body heat. Wrapping plant fibers around limbs or torso added additional protection, while loose moss or feathers could fill gaps between clothing layers and bedding. These techniques were not accidental. They reflect deliberate problem-solving and experimentation aimed at maximizing warmth with limited resources. The contrast between scarcity and necessity played a central role in early insulation strategies. In winter, suitable materials were not always abundant, and the process of collecting them carried risk. Spending too long exposed to the cold while gathering moss or feathers could itself be life-threatening. Humans had to weigh the effort of collection against the survival benefits of the insulation. This dynamic pushed early humans toward efficiency, innovation, and cooperation, as knowledge sharing and collective gathering efforts increased the odds of success. The environment, while harsh and unforgiving, also drove creativity and resourcefulness. Primitive insulation materials were also adapted to different functions beyond clothing and bedding. Moss, lichens, and feathers were sometimes used to insulate shelters or even make temporary sleeping mats for long journeys. Bark and reeds could serve as windbreaks when layered against cave walls or rock overhangs. Feathers or grasses stuffed into gaps between stones or around fire pits enhanced warmth and reduced drafts. Early humans approached insulation holistically, considering the environment, their clothing, and their shelters as interconnected systems rather than isolated components. This integrative approach highlights a sophisticated understanding of thermal management. Evidence from experimental archaeology reinforces the effectiveness of these primitive materials. Modern researchers and survivalists who recreate Ice Age conditions find that moss, feathers, grasses, and bark, when combined thoughtfully, can rival the warmth provided by early animal furs. Such reconstructions demonstrate that early humans were not merely improvising. They were engineering solutions with a deep understanding of natural physics, thermal retention, and ergonomics. The ability to manipulate multiple materials into functional insulation reflects both intelligence and adaptability, qualities that were critical for survival in harsh winters. The social aspect of insulation should not be underestimated. Sharing materials, teaching younger or less experienced members how to layer or prepare moss and feathers, and cooperating to maintain insulated shelters strengthened group cohesion. Survival was rarely an individual achievement. It depended on the collective ingenuity of the group. Those who mastered the use of natural insulation became essential to the community, their knowledge helping everyone endure the freezing nights. Social learning and cooperation were thus as integral to insulation strategies as the materials themselves. Ultimately, primitive insulation materials illustrate the incredible creativity and resilience of early humans. Faced with extreme cold and limited resources, they transformed seemingly mundane natural elements into life-saving tools. Moss, grasses, feathers, lichens, and bark became extensions of human ingenuity, providing warmth, protection, and security when the Ice Age threatened to overwhelm them. These innovations laid the foundation for later advances in clothing and shelter, demonstrating that survival was not only a matter of endurance, but also of observation, experimentation, and intelligent adaptation. Through these strategies, early humans carved a path to one of the harshest environments our species has ever faced, proving that necessity truly is the mother of invention. In the bitter cold of the Ice Age, the warmth of the human body itself became one of the most vital survival tools. Early humans quickly learned that cooperation and social strategies could multiply the effectiveness of physical insulation. Huddling together in groups was more than a practical measure. It was a life-saving adaptation. The close physical proximity of multiple bodies created shared warmth, reducing individual heat loss and improving overall survival chances. This interplay between physiology and social behavior highlights how early humans combined intelligence with biology to endure extreme conditions. Body heat sharing was a constant consideration in sleeping arrangements and daily life. Groups would often sleep in clusters, with individuals pressing against one another in carefully arranged patterns to maximize warmth. Larger, more robust individuals might shield smaller or weaker members, while central positions within the huddle offer the greatest protection against cold drafts. The strategic placement of group members reflects an intuitive understanding of heat transfer and thermodynamics. Anthropologists suggest that such arrangements were not random but deliberate, with knowledge of optimal positioning passed down through generations. Beyond sleeping, social strategies extended to active tasks during the day. Early humans would take turns tending fires, building shelters, or gathering insulation materials to minimize individual exposure to the cold. Teamwork was essential, as prolonged isolation in freezing temperatures could rapidly lead to hypothermia. Cooperation ensured that essential survival tasks were completed efficiently while maintaining a protective network of warmth. The group dynamic became a critical survival tool, demonstrating that human intelligence was inseparable from social coordination in extreme environments. The psychological impact of communal warmth was equally significant. The Ice Age presented relentless stressors, predators, starvation, and freezing temperatures. Physical closeness reduced anxiety, fostered a sense of security, and reinforced social bonds. Individuals who shared body heat experienced both literal and emotional warmth, which helped conserve energy and maintain morale during prolonged periods of hardship. The early human experience of cold, therefore, was shaped not only by environmental factors, but also by the emotional and social dynamics of group living. This reliance on body heat influenced broader cultural behaviors as well. Shared warmth may have contributed to rituals, storytelling, and knowledge exchange, as the group gathered around fires or huddled together during cold nights. Such communal activities likely strengthened communication skills and social cohesion, reinforcing survival strategies and fostering early cultural development. In essence, the necessity of warmth catalyzed the development of both practical and social innovations, linking survival directly to human intelligence, empathy, and collaboration. Even during active tasks such as hunting or gathering, early humans leveraged social strategies to conserve heat. Coordinated movements, synchronized rest periods, and rotational exposure to the elements minimized individual energy expenditure and prevented overexposure to freezing conditions. Groups that ignored these strategies faced higher mortality rates, illustrating that survival was not only a matter of individual skill, but also a collective knowledge and cooperation. Every action, from huddling by a fire to moving efficiently through snow-covered landscape, was informed by an understanding of shared thermal resources. The interplay between physical warmth and social dynamics also extended to care for vulnerable group members. Infants, the elderly, and the injured were often placed at the center huddles or provided additional insulation with plant materials. This practice not only preserved life, but also reinforced social cohesion, as the protection of the most vulnerable became a shared responsibility. Such behavior demonstrates that early humans recognized the importance of every member of the group and the critical role of cooperation in survival. Anthropologists studying modern hunter-gatherer societies offer insights into how these social strategies may have functioned in the past. Observations show that communal huddling, sharing of insulation materials, and cooperative tending of fires are still employed in cold environments, suggesting continuity in human behavioral adaptations. The combination of body heat, material insulation, and social coordination emerges as a recurring theme in human survival, emphasizing that warmth was achieved not solely through technology, but through intelligent, cooperative behavior. The contrast between isolation and community becomes stark when considering the Ice Age context. An individual left alone during freezing nights faced exponentially higher risks, while a cohesive group could maintain warmth, manage resources, and survive extended periods of harsh weather. This stark difference illustrates the dual nature of survival. It required both the physical adaptations of the human body and the cognitive and social strategies to leverage those adaptations effectively. Early humans thrived not simply because they were strong or clever, but because they understood the power of cooperation. Ultimately, the sharing of body heat and the strategic use of social networks represent one of the earliest examples of humans turning innate biological traits into survival technology. The ability to combine warmth, cooperation, and intelligence allowed early humans to endure winters that would have been lethal to solitary individuals. Through these strategies, humans not only survived the harshest conditions of the Ice Age, but also reinforced social bonds, nurtured communal knowledge, and laid the foundations for culture and civilization. In the struggle against freezing nights, the warmth of one human body multiplied to the power of community, proving that survival in the Ice Age was as much a social endeavor as it was a physical one. Winter in the Ice Age was a battle for calories, as much as it was a battle for warmth. The human body requires significantly more energy to maintain core temperature in freezing conditions, making food an essential form of internal insulation. Early humans quickly realized that survival depended not only on accessing sufficient calories, but also on selecting the right types of food. High-fat and high-protein sources became critical, as they provided the energy necessary to generate body heat and endure long, cold nights. Hunting, gathering, and storing these resources became central pillars of winter survival. Hunting in winter was vastly different from the milder seasons. Prey was scarcer, more elusive, and often required longer, more coordinated expeditions. Large game such as mammoths, bison, and reindeer offered not only substantial caloric rewards, but also raw materials for clothing, bedding, and shelter insulation. Tracking these animals through snow and ice required acute observation, patience, and strategic planning. Hunters had to consider wind direction, terrain, and the behavior of prey, all while minimizing energy expenditure and exposure to the freezing elements. A successful hunt could provide enough sustenance and resources for the entire group, while a failed expedition could spell starvation and increase vulnerability to hypothermia. Early humans developed an impressive array of hunting tools and strategies to overcome winter challenges. Spears, atlatls, and stone-tipped arrows allowed them to strike prey from a safe distance, minimizing exposure to cold and predators. Traps and snares were used to capture smaller animals, such as rabbits and birds, supplementing larger hunts with more reliable, though less calorically dense, food sources. Cooperation and communication were key. Coordinated drives, ambushes, and shared watch duties enhance efficiency and safety. These methods reflect an advanced understanding of both animal behavior and environmental conditions, demonstrating that survival required not only physical endurance, but also cognitive sophistication. Food storage became an essential component of winter survival. In contrast to warmer months, where foraging could be continuous, the harsh conditions of winter necessitated planning ahead. Early humans developed strategies to preserve meat and other perishable items, using natural cold, smoke, or underground caches to extend shelf life. Freezing temperatures provided a natural refrigeration system, allowing large quantities of meat to be stored safely for weeks or even months. This ability to plan, preserve, and ration food was critical, ensuring that caloric needs could be met even during periods when hunting proved unsuccessful. The nutritional quality of food directly impacted the body's ability to generate warmth. High-fat foods were especially valuable, as they produced more energy per gram than carbohydrates or lean proteins. Consuming fatty cuts of meat or marrow-rich bones allowed humans to maintain energy reserves necessary for survival. Protein intake supported muscle function and sustained metabolic heat production, while even small amounts of plant-based foods contributed essential vitamins and minerals. The careful selection of foods illustrates the intimate relationship between diet and insulation. Calories became a form of armor against the cold. Foraging also played a critical role in winter survival. While large game provided concentrated energy, plants, nuts, and roots supplemented the diet and ensured a more balanced intake. Gathering required knowledge of local flora, the timing of availability, and techniques to harvest efficiently in snow and ice. Certain roots and tubers could be stored for months, providing emergency rations when hunting failed. These activities demonstrate early humans' ability to adapt to seasonal changes and make the most of scarce resources. The integration of hunting and foraging represents a sophisticated survival strategy that combined observation, memory, and ingenuity. The social organization of food acquisition reinforced group cohesion. Hunting parties often involve multiple members, each assigned specific roles to maximize success. Coordinated efforts reduced energy expenditure while increasing the likelihood of a successful kill. Similarly, sharing food within the group ensured that even the weakest or most vulnerable members received essential nutrition. This cooperation extended the benefits of successful hunts and mitigated the risks of scarcity, emphasizing the interplay between survival, social behavior, and energy management. The preparation and consumption of food were also closely tied to warmth. Cooking over fire not only made food safer and more digestible, but also generated heat that contributed to shelter insulation. Boiling, roasting, and slow cooking allowed groups to gather around fires, sharing both calories and warmth. This combination of nutritional and thermal benefits demonstrates the holistic approach early humans took to winter survival, integrating multiple strategies to maximize life-sustaining resources. Even the act of communal eating reinforced bonds and created a sense of security in an otherwise unforgiving landscape. Energy efficiency was critical in all food-related activities. Excessive exertion in hunting or foraging could deplete precious caloric reserves and increase vulnerability to cold. Early humans learned to balance effort with reward, choosing hunting methods, travel routes, and foraging locations that maximized energy return. The timing of activities was also essential. Hunting during warmer parts of the day, resting during peak cold, and rotating tasks to conserve strength were strategies that demonstrated advanced planning and situational awareness. Survival was a constant calculation of risk versus reward, where every action had consequences for both warmth and nutrition. Winter hunting and foraging also shaped tool innovation. Sharper stone blades, insulated carrying containers, and specialized hunting implements were developed to improve efficiency and reduce exposure. Tools were not merely functional. They were adaptations designed to mitigate the effects of extreme cold. The interplay between technology, energy conservation, and nutrition highlights the complexity of early human survival strategies. Innovation in one domain, tools, directly enhanced capabilities in others, hunting success, insulation, and social organization. Ultimately, food was more than sustenance. It was a core element of winter survival strategy. Calories provided the energy to maintain body heat, high-fat and protein-rich foods acted as natural insulation, and careful planning allowed early humans to endure periods of scarcity. Hunting, foraging, storage, cooking, and sharing all reflected a deep understanding of the relationship between nutrition, energy, and warmth. The reliance on food for survival illustrates the interconnectedness of human physiology, intelligence, and social behavior in the face of extreme environmental challenges. Through careful diet management, early humans transformed the Ice Age from an insurmountable threat into a navigable, though still harsh, landscape. Winter hunting during the Ice Age demanded not only physical endurance, but also ingenuity in tool-making and strategy. Success often meant the difference between survival and starvation, and early humans rose to the challenge by developing a remarkable range of weapons and hunting techniques. Spears, atlatls, stone-tipped arrows, and wooden clubs became essential tools, designed to maximize efficiency while minimizing exposure to the harsh, freezing environment. Each weapon was crafted with precision, reflecting a sophisticated understanding of material properties, aerodynamics, and hunting tactics. Spears were among the most versatile tools, used for both close-range and long-distance hunting. Stone tips were carefully shaped through flaking and grinding, producing sharp, durable points capable of penetrating the thick hides of large game like bison and reindeer. Wooden shafts were selected for strength and flexibility, often seasoned to prevent breakage in cold conditions. The spear was more than a weapon. It was an extension of human intelligence, combining materials and technique to give early humans a vital advantage over their prey. Group hunting with spears allowed coordinated drives, where hunters could trap or corner animals, reducing individual risk while increasing the likelihood of successful kill. The atlatl, or spear thrower, represented a leap in mechanical advantage. By extending the arm's leverage, it allowed hunters to propel spears with greater speed and distance, striking prey from safer ranges. This innovation was particularly useful during winter, when cold, slippery terrain and limited visibility made close-range hunting dangerous. The atlatl also enabled repeated strikes without exhausting the hunter's energy, conserving valuable calories while maintaining lethal efficiency. Evidence from archaeological sites indicates that early humans invested significant time and skill into crafting and maintaining these tools, demonstrating a sophisticated understanding of technology as a survival necessity. Stone-tipped arrows further expanded hunting possibilities, especially for smaller or more agile game. Early humans learned to attach carefully shaped flint or obsidian points to flexible wooden shafts, creating lightweight projectiles capable of piercing hides or felling animals at a distance. Fletching with feathers, when available, improved accuracy and stability in flight. These tools allowed hunters to exploit a wider range of prey, from birds to hares, supplementing larger kills and providing essential calories during the lean winter months. The integration of projectiles into hunting strategy reflects an acute understanding of both physics and animal behavior, illustrating early humans' capacity for complex problem-solving. Traps and snares complemented active hunting, offering energy-efficient ways to secure food. Pit traps, cord snares, and strategically placed nets captured animals without the need for prolonged exposure to freezing conditions. Knowledge of animal behavior was critical. Early humans observed migration paths, feeding habits, and shelter locations to place traps effectively. This passive hunting strategy reduced caloric expenditure while maximizing food acquisition, demonstrating the intelligence and adaptability required to survive in an environment where every step outside could be perilous. Winter hunting was rarely a solitary endeavor. Cooperation and planning were essential. Groups would coordinate drives, with hunters positioned strategically to herd animals toward ambush points or traps. Communication, often through gestures or vocal signals, was critical to maintain safety and efficiency. Such collaborative efforts not only improved hunting success, but also reinforced social cohesion. The integration of group dynamics, environmental knowledge, and advanced tools created a comprehensive system of survival that leveraged both human intellect and social behavior. Preparation and maintenance of hunting tools was another essential aspect of winter survival. Stone points needed regular sharpening. Wooden shafts required replacement, and cords or bindings needed reinforcement. Early humans understood that a failed tool could mean a failed hunt, so meticulous care and planning were crucial. This attention to detail highlights the interconnection between technology, skill, and survival. Tools were not merely objects. They were lifelines, embodying the accumulated knowledge and experience of generations. Hunting strategy was closely tied to energy conservation. Winter conditions required careful management of exertion to avoid wasting precious calories. Hunters optimized their movements, timing expeditions during warmer parts of the day, and conserving strength when conditions were harshest. Tracking prey involved patience and observation, often waiting for hours or days to intercept animals at opportune moments. The integration of planning, skill, and endurance demonstrates the sophisticated cognitive abilities of early humans as they balance immediate survival needs with long-term energy management. Ice Age hunting also shaped shelter and clothing strategies. Successful hunts supplied not only food, but also raw materials for insulation. Hides, bones, and sinew were repurposed into clothing, bedding, and tools, illustrating the interconnectedness of survival strategies. The act of hunting extended beyond caloric intake. It was a central pillar in a broader system of winter adaptation. Each kill represented not just nourishment, but also the means to enhance warmth, protection, and comfort, reinforcing the holistic nature of early human survival strategies. The risks of winter hunting were significant. Hypothermia, frostbite, injury from prey, and encounters with predators were constant threats. These dangers necessitated meticulous preparation, cooperative strategies, and efficient tool use. Early humans' ability to anticipate risks, innovate solutions, and coordinate as a group exemplifies the intelligence and adaptability required to endure the harshest environments. Hunting in winter was a complex interplay of skill, knowledge, and social cooperation, a delicate balance between danger and necessity. Ultimately, Ice Age hunting tools and techniques reflect humanity's first sophisticated interventions into the natural world. Spears, atlatls, arrows, and traps were not just instruments. They were extensions of human thought, designed to overcome the limitations imposed by extreme cold, scarcity, and predation. The development of these tools, combined with strategic planning and social coordination, allowed early humans to secure both food and insulation materials, turning the frozen landscape from a deadly adversary into a manageable, if still challenging, environment. In this way, hunting was more than a means of survival. It was a demonstration of human ingenuity, resilience, and the capacity to transform knowledge into life-saving action. As winter descended across the Ice Age landscape, early humans faced one of their greatest survival challenges, creating shelters that could protect against wind, snow, and subzero temperatures. While natural shelters like caves provided initial refuge, innovation and adaptation allowed humans to enhance these spaces using insulation materials and fire. The integration of shelter, bedding, primitive insulation, and controlled fire represented a sophisticated system of survival, where each element complemented the others to create a livable environment in an otherwise hostile world. Caves remained the most reliable form of shelter, offering solid walls that blocked wind and retained heat. However, early humans quickly realized that natural caves alone were insufficient during the harshest winters. They began modifying these spaces, stacking stones or logs to reduce drafts, filling crevices with moss or grasses, and arranging bedding near central hearths to maximize warmth. The positioning of fires within shelters was critical. Too close, and smoke could become overwhelming. Too far, and heat would not reach sleeping areas. Evidence from archaeological sites indicates a careful understanding of airflow, smoke ventilation, and radiant heat, demonstrating early mastery of environmental management long before modern architecture existed. For groups without access to caves, constructing semi-permanent shelters became necessary. Early humans used available materials, wood, branches, animal hides, and plant fibers, to create lean-tos, windbreaks, or dome-shaped structures. These shelters were often oriented to minimize exposure to prevailing winds and maximize sunlight during the day. Layers of moss, grass, and bark were added to walls and roofs to improve insulation. This combination of natural and constructed elements transformed the environment into a controlled space where survival was possible, even under the most extreme conditions. The addition of fire within shelters amplified the effectiveness of insulation. Hearths strategically placed near sleeping areas radiated warmth, while stones heated by flames retained heat long after the fire subsided. Smoke, though a potential hazard, also played a protective role by deterring insects and predators. Fire, shelter, and insulation materials worked together synergistically. The warmth from the fire penetrated bedding layers, while walls and natural insulation prevented heat from escaping. Early humans had, in essence, created microclimates within their shelters, controlling temperature, airflow, and safety through careful planning and ingenuity. Sleeping arrangements within shelters reflected both practical and social considerations. Bedding made from moss, grasses, and later animal hides was layered to provide maximum thermal protection. Groups often huddled together near the fire, using body heat to supplement the warmth from bedding and insulation. Elevated sleeping platforms or natural depressions in rock surfaces helped trap heat and minimize exposure to cold floors. The arrangement of individuals within these spaces was deliberate. Weaker or younger members were often placed centrally, while stronger adults shielded the outer edges, forming a living barrier against wind and cold. Such spatial strategies illustrate the deep integration of social cooperation into environmental adaptation. Insulation was layered not only beneath and around sleeping areas, but also along the walls and entrances of shelters. Moss, bark, and grasses were packed into gaps to prevent drafts, while animal hides, when available, were hung or draped over walls and doorways. These techniques reflect an intuitive understanding of heat retention and thermodynamics. Archaeological findings indicate repeated maintenance and improvement of shelter insulation, suggesting that early humans were constantly refining their designs to cope with seasonal variations and environmental challenges. Each layer represented accumulated knowledge, a careful calibration between available materials and survival needs. The social aspects of shelter use were as important as the physical components. Gathering and preparing insulation materials required coordinated effort, and the placement of fires and bedding involved shared decision-making. Maintaining warmth was a group responsibility. Fire tending, bedding arrangement, and insulation upkeep were distributed among members to ensure that energy and resources were used efficiently. The communal management of shelter space reinforced social bonds, strengthened cooperation, and increased the survival rate of the group. In this context, architecture, insulation, and social strategy were inseparable elements of winter survival. Hearth design within shelters demonstrated remarkable ingenuity. Early humans arranged stones to concentrate heat, prevent accidental fires, and optimize airflow. Fires were often small and controlled, producing steady heat without overwhelming smoke. In larger caves or constructed shelters, multiple hearths could be positioned to provide localized warmth in different areas. These arrangements allowed early humans to regulate temperature according to activity and proximity, illustrating an advanced understanding of energy efficiency and environmental control. Fire became not only a source of warmth, but also a tool for managing space and resources within shelters. The integration of primitive insulation materials into shelter construction was highly adaptive. Moss, grasses, feathers, and bark were layered strategically to enhance the thermal properties of walls, floors, and sleeping areas. In combination with fire, these materials created an environment where humans could rest and recover without excessive energy loss. The selection and placement of these materials required detailed observation of their properties, careful planning, and ongoing maintenance. The interplay between natural resources, human ingenuity, and environmental conditions exemplifies the sophistication of early winter survival strategies. Winter shelters also served as centers of daily life and cultural development. Within insulated and heated spaces, early humans could prepare food, craft tools, tend to young and elderly, and pass down knowledge. The physical comfort provided by warmth and insulation created opportunities for teaching, social bonding, and planning, reinforcing the importance of shelter as a hub for both survival and community life. In essence, the combination of shelter, fire, and insulation transformed dangerous landscapes into manageable environments, supporting both physical survival and social cohesion. Ultimately, the synergy of winter shelters, insulation, and fire represents one of humanity's earliest technological achievements. By combining natural and constructed elements, early humans created microclimates that maximize warmth and minimize risk, allowing them to survive in some of the harshest climates on Earth. These innovations were not static. They evolved through observation, experimentation, and social learning, reflecting a dynamic interplay between intelligence, cooperation, and environmental adaptation. Through this intricate system, early humans demonstrated that survival was not merely about endurance. It was about ingenuity, strategy, and the capacity to manipulate the world to meet basic human needs. Winter survival was not only a physical challenge, it was also a psychological and cultural one. The long, dark months brought fear, uncertainty, and stress, which early humans confronted not only with fire, shelter, and insulation, but also through rituals and beliefs. These practices provided structure, comfort, and meaning in an environment dominated by danger and scarcity. From communal gatherings around a fire to symbolic carvings and protective charms, early humans developed ways to manage fear, reinforce social bonds, and psychologically prepare for the rigors of winter survival. Rituals likely emerged as a method of coping with the unknown. The Ice Age was home to massive predators, unpredictable weather, and scarce food resources. Performing consistent actions, ceremonies, or prayers, whether directed at animals, spirits, or natural forces, gave early humans a sense of control over events they could not directly influence. These rituals could include gestures before hunting, offerings near shelters, or repetitive communal songs around a fire. The act of ritualizing survival activities reduced anxiety, reinforced group cohesion, and maintained focus on practical tasks, allowing humans to approach danger with greater composure and coordination. Beliefs about the natural world played a critical role in winter survival strategies. Early humans likely attributed agency to animals, weather, and celestial bodies, interpreting patterns to guide decision-making. Observing animal behavior, wind shifts, and seasonal changes may have been framed within spiritual or symbolic narratives, providing both guidance and reassurance. Such beliefs encourage attentiveness, careful observation, and long-term planning, skills essential for locating food, selecting materials for shelter, and anticipating environmental hazards. Spiritual frameworks became intertwined with practical knowledge, forming a cognitive system that combined survival instincts with cultural interpretation. Communal rituals strengthened social bonds, which were essential for enduring harsh winters. Singing, chanting, storytelling, and shared meals around the fire reinforced group identity and cooperation. These gatherings were not merely ceremonial. They were practical mechanisms for information sharing, skill transmission, and mutual reassurance. Young members learned hunting techniques, fire maintenance, and shelter construction through participation in these rituals. Elders transmitted experience and wisdom, ensuring that critical survival knowledge persisted across generations. The integration of ritual and instruction demonstrates a profound connection between culture and survival in early human communities. Protective charms and symbolic objects were likely another aspect of winter rituals. Early humans may have used bones, stones, or carved figures to ward off danger or attract success in hunting and protection against the elements. Placing these objects near shelters or hearths served as a psychological shield, providing comfort and reinforcing a sense of security. These items also acted as social signals, indicating skill, status, or group affiliation, and fostering cohesion and trust among members. The tangible presence of ritual objects complemented other survival strategies by supporting the mental and emotional resilience necessary to endure extreme conditions. Hunting rituals were particularly important during winter. Before tracking prey through snow and ice, groups may have performed ceremonies to ensure success, invoking supernatural favor or demonstrating respect for the animals. These rituals help focus attention, coordinate group activity, and mentally prepare hunters for the physical demands ahead. By framing dangerous expeditions within ritualized behavior, early humans reduced fear and uncertainty, increasing both morale and efficiency. The psychological benefits of these practices were inseparable from their practical outcomes. Calm, focused hunters were more likely to succeed in securing vital calories and materials. Rituals around fire had both practical and symbolic significance. Fire was central to warmth, cooking, and protection, but also became a focus for communal gatherings. Lighting, maintaining, and tending fires could involve ceremonial elements, reinforcing the importance of fire to survival and encouraging careful attention to its maintenance. Communal warmth, storytelling, and songs performed around the hearth created shared experiences that strengthened trust and solidarity. These rituals helped turn a dangerous, frozen landscape into a manageable and meaningful environment. Beliefs surrounding seasonal cycles and the changing environment also influenced winter survival. Early humans observed patterns in behavior of animals, the arrival of snow, and the movement of the sun and stars. These observations were often codified into narratives or taboos that guided behavior, such as when to hunt, when to store food, and how to prepare shelters. By embedding survival knowledge within ritual and belief systems, early humans created a cultural memory that extended beyond immediate experience. These practices ensured continuity, allowed for effective long-term planning, and helped groups navigate the challenges of each winter with greater confidence. Even the most practical activities were infused with meaning. Gathering insulation materials, tending fires, and arranging bedding could be accompanied by songs, chants, or symbolic gestures. These small rituals transformed repetitive, labor-intensive tasks into meaningful acts, increasing engagement and cooperation. Psychological resilience was critical in the harsh winter months. Rituals provided structure, reduced stress, and created a sense of purpose. By intertwining survival with culture, early humans enhanced both physical endurance and mental fortitude. Ultimately, rituals and beliefs were as vital as fire, shelter, and food in winter survival. They provided a framework for understanding, managing, and influencing an unpredictable environment. They reinforced social cohesion, transmitted knowledge, and offered psychological comfort in the face of danger. The combination of practical survival strategies with ritualized behavior illustrates the holistic approach early humans took to life in the Ice Age. Survival was never solely physical. It was also social, cultural, and spiritual. Through rituals and beliefs, early humans transformed the terror of freezing nights into a manageable, structured experience, ensuring both survival and the continuity of knowledge, tradition, and community. Winter in the Ice Age brought not only frigid temperatures, but also heightened interactions with animals, both prey and predators. The scarcity of food forced early humans to venture farther and take greater risks, while predators, also pressed by winter scarcity, became more aggressive and opportunistic. Survival depended on a delicate balance, knowing which animals to hunt for sustenance, which to avoid, and how to exploit natural behaviors for safety and advantage. Every encounter was fraught with danger, and understanding animal behavior became a critical skill for enduring the harshest months of the year. Large herbivores were the cornerstone of Ice Age survival. Mammoths, bison, reindeer, and elk provided not only essential calories, but also raw materials for clothing, bedding, and shelter insulation. These animals were formidable and often unpredictable, requiring careful planning, teamwork, and the strategic use of weapons and traps. Hunters observed migration patterns, herd behavior, and seasonal feeding grounds to anticipate the movements of prey. The success of a hunt depended on understanding timing, terrain, and environmental conditions, demonstrating early humans' ability to combine observation with tactical execution in life-or-death scenarios. Predatory animals presented constant threats. Wolves, saber-tooths, cave lions, and bears roamed the same landscapes, driven by hunger and the pressures of winter scarcity. Encounters with these predators could be fatal, making vigilance, shelter, and cooperation essential. Early humans developed strategies to mitigate these dangers, including the use of fire to deter predators, fortifying shelters, and keeping watch in shifts during the night. Social cohesion was critical. Groups that failed to maintain vigilance faced higher mortality rates. Predators were not only a physical threat, but also a psychological one, instilling fear that influenced decision-making, movement patterns, and survival strategies. The presence of predators also shaped hunting strategies. Knowledge of predator behavior allowed humans to exploit opportunities, such as hunting animals near predator territories or using predator presence to guide prey into traps. Early humans may have observed and learned from predators, noting patterns and formed their own hunting methods. This dynamic relationship between humans, prey, and predators illustrates a sophisticated understanding of ecosystems, where survival required continuous adaptation and intelligence rather than brute strength alone. Smaller animals and birds provided additional sources of nutrition and materials. Rabbits, hares, grouse, and other small prey were often captured using snares, traps, or careful stalking. While less calorically dense than large game, these animals were reliable, replenishable resources that could be gathered with lower risk and energy expenditure. Their seasonal availability required knowledge of nesting sites, burrows, and feeding habits, emphasizing early humans' observational skills and adaptability. Even the smallest animals contributed to survival, demonstrating the comprehensive approach early humans took to managing resources in winter. Ice Age humans also had to navigate dangerous interactions with scavengers. Foxes, ravens, and other opportunistic animals competed for carcasses, requiring early humans to act quickly to secure food. Preservation methods, such as caching meat in cold locations, minimize losses and reduce the likelihood of attracting predators or scavengers. The constant interplay of competition, timing, and resource management highlights the complex web of interactions that early humans navigated to survive winter months. Success required foresight, planning, and the ability to anticipate animal behavior across multiple species. Animals were also a source of materials beyond nutrition. Hides, furs, bones, and sinew were essential for clothing, bedding, and tool-making. The winter scarcity of these materials added urgency to hunting efforts. Collecting and processing animal remains required knowledge, skill, and energy management, emphasizing that survival strategies were interconnected. Securing food simultaneously provided insulation, tools, and shelter materials. Early humans learned to maximize utility from every kill, creating systems of resource efficiency that were essential for enduring prolonged periods of extreme cold. Predator avoidance and defense influenced daily routines. Traveling in groups, keeping children and the elderly close, and maintaining fire as a deterrent were all strategies designed to reduce risk. Knowledge of terrain, predator tracks, and escape routes became part of survival education, passed from elders to younger members. This combination of learned behavior, environmental awareness, and social coordination highlights how humans adapted culturally and cognitively to the dangers posed by animals during winter. The psychological impact of constant predator presence cannot be overstated. Fear sharpened senses, reinforced vigilance, and motivated cooperation, but also carried risks of stress and exhaustion. Rituals, communal fire gatherings, and storytelling likely served to mitigate these effects, reinforcing social bonds and creating a shared sense of safety. By integrating practical defense strategies with psychological and social coping mechanisms, early humans created a holistic approach to managing the dual threats of cold and predation. The contrast between predator and prey behavior provided opportunities for survival. Early humans learned to read subtle environmental cues, the rustle of grass, tracks in snow, distant calls of animals, to anticipate danger and locate sustenance. Hunting strategies exploited predictable movements of prey while avoiding encounters with predators. Observing animal behavior became both a survival tool and an educational framework for younger generations, teaching them how to coexist with dangerous ecosystem while maximizing survival chances. Ultimately, animal interactions during winter shaped the entire spectrum of early human life. Survival depended on understanding both prey and predator, leveraging knowledge of behavior, timing, and environmental conditions. Animals were simultaneously sources of food, materials, danger, and learning, creating a complex relationship that required intelligence, observation, and social cooperation. By mastering these interactions, early humans were able to navigate the frozen landscapes, transform risk into opportunity, and establish survival strategies that were as much cultural and cognitive as they were physical. Winter survival in the Ice Age was not confined to a single location. Seasonal scarcity of food, predators, and harsh weather often forced early humans to migrate, traveling across frozen landscapes in search of sustenance, shelter, and safety. These journeys were fraught with danger, requiring meticulous planning, intimate knowledge of terrain, and coordinated group strategies. Migration was both a survival necessity and an adaptive strategy, demonstrating the incredible resilience and intelligence of early humans as they navigated an unforgiving environment. Planning for migration began long before movement commenced. Early humans observed patterns in the behavior of prey animals, tracking herds to anticipate the most fruitful hunting grounds. They also monitored snow depth, ice thickness, and weather patterns to identify the safest and most efficient routes. Knowledge of landmarks, water sources, and natural shelters was critical. Groups likely relied on memory, oral transmission of knowledge, and perhaps rudimentary maps or markers to ensure they remained on course. Migration was not random wandering. It was a calculated journey that balanced energy expenditure, risk, and reward. Traveling in groups offered multiple advantages. Larger groups provided protection against predators, allowed for cooperative hunting along the way, and facilitated the sharing of resources. Social coordination ensured that weaker members, such as children or the elderly, were supported, often carried or shielded from harsh winds. Cooperation during migration reflected the same principles applied within stationary camps. Collective effort, communication, and careful allocation of labor maximized survival chances. Even during arduous treks, the social structure provided warmth, encouragement, and a system of shared responsibility. Migration required careful energy management. Walking long distances in snow and ice is physically taxing, and the body consumes significantly more calories in cold conditions. Early humans balanced exertion with opportunity, moving in patterns that allowed them to conserve energy while still accessing necessary resources. Carrying food, tools, and insulation materials added to the challenge, forcing prioritization and efficiency. The logistics of winter migration demanded cognitive skills, as well as physical endurance, highlighting the sophisticated problem-solving abilities of Ice Age humans. Shelter along migration routes was temporary but critical. Natural formations, such as rock overhangs, trees, or shallow caves, provided short-term protection, often supplemented with insulation materials like moss, grasses, and bark. Portable solutions, including bundled plant fibers or hides, allowed early humans to quickly create warm, functional sleeping areas. Fires were carefully maintained and managed to provide warmth without attracting predators. Even during transient stops, survival depended on integrating shelter, insulation, and group coordination, underscoring the continuous vigilance required during winter journeys. Migration also influenced hunting and foraging strategies. Traveling groups had to anticipate the availability of food along their route, identifying areas where large game herds would congregate or where plant-based resources could be gathered. Mobility allowed humans to exploit seasonal opportunities, but also increase exposure to predators and harsh weather. Timing became critical. Moving too early risked frozen rivers in deep snow, while moving too late could miss crucial food sources. Migration was a delicate balancing act, requiring both environmental knowledge and adaptive flexibility. Animals often shaped the paths and timing of migration. Herds of prey dictated movement patterns, while predator territory created zones of risk that needed to be navigated or avoided. Early humans developed strategies to exploit these dynamics, following prey while steering clear of dangerous areas. Observation of animal behavior informed decisions on when to travel, where to rest, and how to position groups for safety and efficiency. Migration, therefore, was not merely movement. It was an ongoing, dynamic interaction with the ecosystem, blending intuition, experience, and strategic planning. Winter journeys were also influenced by water sources. Frozen rivers, lakes, and streams required careful navigation, as ice thickness varied and could be treacherous. Melting snow and ice provided vital drinking water, and knowledge of safe crossing points could mean the difference between life and death. Groups often traveled in ways that balanced access to water with protection from exposure and predators. Resource management during migration extended beyond food and shelter to include hydration, energy conservation, and strategic rest stops. The psychological demands of migration were as significant as the physical ones. Constant vigilance, fear of predators, and uncertainty about food availability created stress that could erode morale. Social cohesion, shared leadership, and ritual practices helped mitigate these pressures. Songs, chants, and communal storytelling during rest periods reinforce bonds, reduce anxiety, and maintain focus. By embedding cultural practices into migration routines, early humans strengthened both resilience and cooperation, ensuring that mental fortitude matched physical endurance. Environmental challenges dictated innovation during migration. Snow-covered terrain necessitated the use of improvised footwear or snowshoes crafted from bark or plant fibers. Ice and wind required layered insulation, careful positioning, and constant movement to prevent hypothermia. Even simple tools, like digging sticks or carrying poles, facilitated travel across frozen landscapes. Innovation during migration demonstrates the human capacity to adapt in real time, applying previous knowledge and improvising solutions to immediate threats. Migration also facilitated knowledge transfer. Traveling through diverse landscapes exposed groups to new resources, terrains, and strategies. Young members learned navigation, hunting, and shelter techniques, while elders transmitted accumulated wisdom. Migration was not merely survival. It was an educational journey, embedding critical life skills within the collective memory of the group. These experiences became the foundation for long-term adaptability, allowing humans to survive in an increasingly variable and challenging Ice Age environment. Ultimately, migration during winter was a testament to human ingenuity, cooperation, and resilience. By understanding the movement of animals, managing energy, maintaining social cohesion, and integrating shelter and insulation strategies, early humans navigated frozen landscapes that would have been lethal to solitary individuals. Migration transformed scarcity into opportunity, danger into calculated risk, and winter into a season of both challenge and adaptation. Through these journeys, humans not only survived, they learned, innovated, and reinforced the social structures that would sustain generations to come. Seasonal movements allowed humans to track prey, avoid environmental hazards, and access temporary shelters and resources. Planning migration required knowledge of terrain, climate, water sources, and predator territories, combined with the coordination and endurance of the group. These journeys were not only physical endeavors but educational and social experiences, where younger members learned vital survival skills, and elders transmitted wisdom accumulated over generations. Migration demonstrates how adaptability and foresight extended beyond immediate survival to ensure continuity, learning, and cultural transmission. The synthesis of all survival strategies reflects a profound understanding of the environment and of human capability. Fire, shelter, insulation, hunting, foraging, rituals, social coordination, and migration were interdependent components of a larger system. Failure in one element could jeopardize survival, while mastery across multiple domains created resilience that allowed humans to endure winters that would have been fatal to less organized groups. Early humans' ability to integrate these strategies exemplifies the cognitive and social complexity necessary for thriving in extreme conditions. Winter survival also shaped long-term cultural and technological development. Observations of animal behavior, experimentation with materials, and refinement of tools laid the groundwork for future innovations. Social coordination, teaching, and ritual practices fostered the transmission of knowledge, ensuring that survival strategies became embedded in collective memory. The Ice Age, with its relentless winters and unpredictable dangers, acted as both a crucible and a classroom, forging skills, behaviors, and cultural practices that would define human resilience for millennia. The contrast between fear and mastery underscores the human journey through winter. The Ice Age was a world of uncertainty, with starvation, predation, and freezing temperatures ever present. Yet early humans turned fear into strategy, chaos into structure, and scarcity into opportunity. By mastering fire, clothing, shelter, food acquisition, and social cohesion, they transformed the environment from a lethal adversary into a navigable and manageable space. Survival became a testament not only to physical endurance, but also to intelligence, cooperation, and the ability to synthesize knowledge across multiple domains. Ultimately, Ice Age winter survival exemplifies the essence of human adaptability. Every strategy, whether gathering insulation, tending fires, hunting large game, performing rituals, or migrating across frozen landscapes, demonstrates a sophisticated interplay between observation, innovation, social cooperation, and culture. Early humans survived by understanding the environment, anticipating challenges, and leveraging collective knowledge to reduce risk and maximize resources. Their success laid the foundation for all subsequent human development, proving that the combination of intellect, culture, and cooperation is the most powerful insulation against the coldest nights in history. In the end, the story of humans in the Ice Age is not merely one of survival. It is a story of ingenuity, resilience, and the capacity to transform the harshest conditions into opportunities for growth and learning. The freezing nights, relentless predators, and scarce resources were formidable adversaries, yet they also catalyzed creativity, social cohesion, and technological innovation. Through careful observation, strategic planning, and the power of collaboration, early humans demonstrated a remarkable ability to thrive in an environment that demanded nothing less than mastery of both the physical and social worlds. Winter survival in the Ice Age, therefore, stands as a testament to the enduring human spirit, a vivid example of how intellect, cooperation, and culture can turn even the most inhospitable landscapes into a stage for life, learning, and the persistence of humanity itself. As winter tightened its grip on the Ice Age world, survival demanded the harmonious integration of every skill, strategy, and innovation early humans had developed. Shelter, insulation, fire, hunting, foraging, social cooperation, and rituals were not isolated solutions. They were interconnected threads woven into a complex tapestry of winter survival. The ability to synthesize these elements determined life or death, turning the harsh, frozen landscape into a stage for human ingenuity and resilience. Shelters, enhanced with layers of moss, grasses, bark, and hides, provided more than physical protection. They created environments where the group could maintain warmth, tend to the young and elderly, and prepare food. Fire within these shelters amplified the effectiveness of insulation, generating heat, light, and safety against predators. Bedding arrangements and communal huddling further conserved energy and maximized survival. Each element reinforced the others. The insulation preserved heat, the fire radiated warmth, and the social huddle distributed body heat efficiently. In this way, humans transformed the natural environment into a controlled and habitable space, demonstrating foresight and planning that would become hallmarks of human adaptation. Hunting and foraging complemented shelter strategies by ensuring a steady supply of energy-dense foods essential for thermoregulation. Large game provided calories and materials for clothing, bedding, and tools, while smaller prey supplemented nutrition during scarce periods. The development of sophisticated weapons, spears, atlatls, stone-tipped arrows, and passive strategies like traps and snares exemplified the integration of intelligence, observation, and physical skill. Energy conservation was paramount. Every step, every strike, and every movement had to balance effort with caloric return. This constant calculation highlights the remarkable cognitive abilities of early humans, who transformed the act of hunting into a finely tuned survival system. Social structures were at the heart of winter survival. Cooperation in fire tending, hunting, shelter maintenance, and food sharing ensured that individual vulnerabilities did not compromise group resilience. Huddling together at night, rotating duties during the day, and collectively navigating migration routes created a network of support that amplified survival prospects. Social bonds also carried psychological benefits. Shared experiences, rituals, and communal storytelling around fires reduced fear, reinforced cohesion, and provided a sense of security in an environment dominated by uncertainty and danger. Survival was never merely individual. It was inherently collective. Rituals and beliefs further strengthened these survival strategies. Ceremonial practices, symbolic objects, and ritualized behaviors provided structure, meaning, and emotional resilience. Hunting rituals focused attention and coordination. Fire rituals reinforced communal responsibilities. And symbolic charms offered psychological comfort against the unknown. These practices illustrate how early humans integrated culture into survival, creating a system where practical action and symbolic meaning were inseparable. By addressing both the physical and emotional challenges of winter, rituals ensure that early humans remained adaptable, focused, and motivated. Interaction with animals, both prey and predator, demanded continuous observation and adaptation. Understanding herd movements, predator behavior, and ecological patterns allowed humans to make strategic decisions regarding hunting, foraging, and migration. Animals were not merely sources of food. They were teachers, guides, and challenges, shaping the rhythms of daily life. Early humans learned to exploit environmental cues, anticipate dangers, and transform the threats posed by predators into opportunities for cooperation and skillful navigation. Every encounter reinforced the delicate balance between caution and necessity, highlighting the dynamic relationship between humans and their environment. Migration and mobility were critical components of winter survival.